Our keynote speaker has spent 20 years in the beauty industry. He started his career on the client side, working for L'Oreal in Paris. Here he had rapid career progression based on success working on Lancome, which is L'Oreal's largest prestige brand. He then moved to the agency side and has had amazing success with SelectNY, receiving the agency's first US Fifi Award for Best TV Campaign on Beyoncé's True Star by Tommy Hilfiger, among other accomplishments. Select's expertise in premium brand building and advertising is used by Estee Lauder, P&G, Coty, and L'Oreal, to name a few. And he's here to tell us more about their method of brand storytelling. It is my pleasure to introduce Fabrice Croisé.
Okay, so at the origin of the work that we've been doing at the agency for many, many years, there is an observation about the way we think as human beings. And that observation is that we do not think in a linear, structured type of a way. We think in narratives. We think as stories. So for instance, this morning, you pick up the Los Angeles Times and you look at the cover of the Los Angeles Times, and there's a story about the rebirth of Westwood, and then there's a story about Syria. So when I read this story about, let's take Syria. I read this story about Syria, and I see the picture of Obama and Putin talking together, obviously not happy with one another. And I read the text, and it's more than just lines on a piece of paper. It reminds me of history. It makes me think of the Cold War. It makes me think of the US and Russia and where I was at that time when the Cold War, when I was a kid and I was kind of caught in the middle in France. It makes me think of Islam, and it makes me think of 9/11, and it makes me think of Turkey and what's happening in Turkey today. And then I think about, and when I say think, it's not necessarily conscious. It might be like a whole magma of subconscious thoughts, but all of this comes into my mind at some point and in some place when I read this article. It makes me think of a kid that I grew up with whose father was Arab, and the way we were interacting with him. It makes me think of what's going to happen tomorrow. And is the world going to be a better place, or is it going to be, are we going to another type of a war that is going to start somewhere else? All these things come into play. And that's the way we think. We think as a story. And the reason why it matters is because basically in that example that I just gave you, you can see that I anchor things in the past. So I link an event that happens today with things that have happened in the past. I open it into the future, and then I bring it to my own experience. And that's why story matters. They open your perspectives past and forward, and you also tend to bring them to your own expertise. And in the way we work at the agency, we like to think that brands are very much like people. They have a birth, they have a coming of age, they have a mature age, they have events that happen and that are determining in their life. They fall in love, or they meet people that they don't like. Things happen, and we like to explore the way the brands live, the same way people live, and we like to structure a story around this.